When you have to figure something out, you will figure it out. There is always a solution. There is always a way to keep going, especially when you like have no other choice. I had no choice but to keep figuring this out, so I did. With every step, I just kept tweaking, changing, adapting, and just kept moving because what was I going to do? Sit my ass down and just like live on the side of this mountain? No, I had to keep going. Welcome to the Shannon McCabe Show, where we break free from our drink-obsessed culture, challenge the myths around alcohol, and redefine sobriety as the empowering choice it truly is. I'm Shannon McCabe, sober coach, holistic nutritionist, and your guide to a life that feels better without booze. Whether you're newly sober, sober curious, or years into this journey, this podcast is here to give you the truth about alcohol, the tools to build lasting confidence, and the hope that a vibrant, fulfilling life is waiting for you on the other side. So grab your coffee or sparkling water and let's dive in. Hey, you guys. Hello. Welcome back to the Shannon McCabe Show. Okay, you guys, I'm really excited to dive into today's chat. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw that a couple weeks ago, I was in Phoenix for a little work trip with my husband and his brother and his wife, because they're our business partners. And so we were there for a little work retreat. And part of that retreat was a hike up Camelback Mountain, which I had never done before. So this is my story of what that hike was like and how, despite how truly awful it was, truly awful it was for the first half of it, I had a light bulb moment in the middle of the hike where I was like, holy shit, this is so much like quitting drinking and so much like first getting sober and then also trying to stay sober. And by the time I was coming down the mountain, this podcast was already like forming in my head, so much so that to the point, once I finally got like to the part where I could walk without worrying about falling, because a good portion of this hike on this harder trail is just trying not to fall the whole entire time, especially when you are a newbie at it, like I was. But anyways, once we got down to like the lower foothills, I had my phone out and I was taking voice notes because I just had so many thoughts in my head about this. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe the parallels to the quitting drinking journey and how I was having like thoughts in this like truly torturous internal dialogue that I have not experienced since like the early days of quitting drinking. And so I just kind of wanted to share this all with you guys. So grab a coffee, grab your sparkling water, put your earbuds in and head out for a walk. And I appreciate you guys listening and sticking with me through this. So like I said, you guys, Camelback Mountain, there's two different trails you can take up the mountain. And we were following the lead of my brother-in-law. He's in Phoenix a lot. He's got kids in college there and had done Camelback several times and had always done this specific trail. And so we weren't really aware that it was the harder of the two trails. And I don't really think he was either, because after the fact, when we found this out, we talked about it and he's like, oh, no, I don't think he even knew there was an easier, more scenic, like the picture of hiking that my husband and I had in our head that was going to be like, oh, this is like restful and relaxing and we can stop and like look it around at the beautiful mountain vistas and we're going to have all this time for like reflection and just, like spying nature and stuff like that. No, that is not what this hike was like. It was like from the first step, I was out of breath. From the first step, I was like, what in the hell are we doing? This is like torture. I was trying not to fall. I was so out of breath that I was dizzy at times and was constantly just like, can I even do this? Like, am I really even going to keep going? Because it right off the bat was so much harder than I expected it to be that I was almost panicking. I didn't know what to do because I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. So we're starting this hike and seriously, like my internal dialogue, my thoughts are just running on this loop of, I want to quit. Like, I want to turn around. I don't even want to be here doing this. I was so out of breath. I was also like so acutely aware of the people around me that were going so much faster and appeared to be having a lot easier time. So we did this hike on a Saturday morning. So it was really pretty busy because there's a lot of locals and a lot of tourists that just go and do this hike, especially on a Saturday morning in March when it's spring break and there's a ton of people in Phoenix. So I'm like dealing with this mental onslaught of like negativity in my head because I was just so unprepared and I was just like, I want to quit. I want to turn back. I don't want to do this. There's so many more people here than I anticipated. And so not only was I struggling, but I was acutely aware of everybody around me. And so like looking at how they were hiking compared to how I was hiking. And I was just like, is this as hard for them as it is for me? Why is it so hard for me? Are they out of breath? They don't look like they're out of breath, but they look like they're in worse shape than I am. So they should be out of breath. And it was just like this, it was a disaster. It was a disaster inside of my head. And so for the first probably 15, 20 minutes of the hike, it was a group of the four of us because my sister-in-law started the hike with us, but she had very strongly declared before we even left for the trip that she was not going to complete this hike with us. She had done it before. She had zero desire to do it again. And so she was going to do like this first little beginning, basically the super wide, what was supposed to be easy, just gravel paved part of the trail. And even on that part, I was struggling. So right away, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I should just turn around with her. Like maybe I'm not gonna even attempt to do this. But then that started its own struggle, right? Because it's like, no, I said I was going to do this. I don't want to like give up and give in before I really even get going. I just kept going in this circle. Like you guys this is like 10 minutes into it and I am already bogged down with this like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? This is so hard. And constantly yo-yoing back and forth between, am I even going to keep going or am I just going to stop and like pull the plug and be done? So somehow I keep just taking step after step, while like each step is, I'm still out of breath. I'm kind of dizzy. I'm kind of feel like I might fall, but not really falling. I'm trying to keep up with my husband and my brother-in-law. I'm trying to stay out of the way of the other people that are behind us. And it's like chaos. It is like pure chaos in my head. And I was just so thrown for a loop because it's just not what I expected at all. So we continue on this hike. And by this point, like my sister-in-law had left. We had probably now been going for maybe 15, 20 minutes without her. And each step just felt like such a struggle. And I was just so unsure, right? It's just that feeling of panic that comes when you don't know what's coming, right? Like I didn't know if it was going to feel easier in like 5 minutes. I didn't really even know for sure how long this hike was going to take. So to keep myself just from completely spiraling out of control, I was like, okay, Shannon, first of all, just chill the F out. Like get a grip. Just get a grip on yourself. And we had already hit like one or two little points where there would be like a plateau, just kind of like a natural plateau where we could stop for a minute, catch our breath, grab a drink of water, everything, let really fast people past us. And so I was telling myself like, okay, when we get to the next plateau now, that's when I'm going to decide. I'm going to get that far. I'm going to take a breather and then I'm going to decide if I am actually turning around. I'm going to text my sister-in-law, tell her that I'm coming back down. I am bailing on this hike and let the boys go by themselves, or if I'm going to actually keep going. So immediately, as soon as I broke it down into this like smaller chunk, it was such like a visceral sense of relief. Like I instantly felt some of the tension leave my body. And it was also like legit easier to breathe, even though that didn't make any sense because the mountain just kept getting steeper and we're like parts of it, you're actually like rock climbing. It's like hand over feet, like grabbing onto a rock to get up to the next part. Like a good portion of this, it's not even trails. You're just trying to figure out what rock to step on, hoping that you don't fall. But everything did become a little bit easier feeling once I'm like, okay, I am going to stop thinking about how long this whole hike could possibly take and how far it is because I don't even know. And I just kept saying, I'm just going to make it to the next point where we can stop and I can catch my breath. And then I'm going to decide if I'm bailing and going back down or if I'm going to keep going. So we kept doing it this way. We kept proceeding this way. So I would stop after every little hard part at the next plateau that was available, and I would be like, okay, I definitely still don't feel strong enough to be doing this. I 100% was like slowing down. My husband and my brother-in-law, they both absolutely could have gone faster and probably enjoyed themselves more if I wasn't there and if they weren't worried about me. But I would just stand there and catch my breath, like take some deep breaths, take a drink of water, close my eyes. And at the same time, I was thinking, like, I don't really want to quit though, because A, that's embarrassing. And I am a proud person and I am a competitive person. But because I also knew I would regret it, right? Like I've lived a life long enough to know that usually when we back down from challenges, we end up hating ourselves afterwards. Like I don't want to say that I quit. If I had like actually fallen and broken a limb or something, that would be one thing. But just feeling like it was hard, I didn't want that to just be the reason that I didn't even try because I knew that I would regret it. Okay. So there was definitely that piece of pride into it. I didn't want to look like a quitter in front of my husband and my brother-in-law. And part of it also, you guys, I'm going to be super honest. It was like selfish and it was vanity because seriously, I'm looking around and there are like old people here doing this. There are teenagers. There are all kinds of people on this trail and they're doing it and they just kept going and I'm like, well, my God, if they can do it, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to at least try because how ridiculous would it be for me to be like, oh, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to quit and turn back and then run into like a 70-year-old woman that's doing it. Like I'm sorry, but there's no valid excuse for me to do that. I needed to just like get my shit together and keep climbing this mountain. It was not going to kill me. The likelihood of it actually killing me was very, very small. So I needed to like rein in the dramatics and just focus on like the next little part. Okay. So that's what I would do. I'd catch my breath just enough. I'd take like that small break that was just enough to convince me going until the next small break, right? I would take it just one incline, this next one little uphill section, and then I could reevaluate again. So I allowed myself that kind of comfort or safety net. Like I can quit if I want to. I'm just going to try this next little hard part and then I'll reevaluate, right? And that kind of psychology, that logic really worked because rather than freaking out about this whole big, huge unknown journey and all of the things that could possibly go wrong, I was like, nope, I'm just going to focus on this next little, really tangible, easy to see part. Like I can see the next plateau. I can see it right there. I can see what I have to pass between here and there. So I can do that, right? So at the same time, you guys, part of like I recognize fully that part of what was so hard about this for me was that I really had no idea how long this climb went on for. I had heard like so many different things. Some people were like, oh, it's about an hour. Even my brother-in-law was like, I can't really remember, maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And I'm like, well, that's a big difference. And also, is that for everyone? Or is that like for really in shape people? What about all these old people? Or what about people like me that seem to maybe not be in as good a shape as they thought they were? Like, is this going to take an hour? Is it going to take 2.5 hours? Because I don't know. And that not knowing is like really panic inducing because there were times where we stopped at this one plateau and my husband's like, oh, look up there. Do you see that? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's where we're going. And you guys, the top of this mountain seemed so far away. And the tiny little trail of people like literally looked like ants. And I'm like, are you shitting me? Because that they looked so far away and it looked so much higher than we were. And I was like just barely not panicking anymore and also not feeling like dizzy from lack of oxygen. And I'm like, oh my God, we still have that much farther to go. It was seriously so defeating and so overwhelming to look that far ahead because I'm just like, that's it's too far. It's too far. It's too long. It's too hard. It's not what I thought this was going to be. And my excitement is 100% gone. Now I don't know if I can do this, but I also don't want to look like an idiot and give up. So I kept going somehow, kept going like, okay, let's take another step. Let's keep at it. And then at this same time, Because really, you guys, there's so much happening in my head all at the same time. So another thing that was happening this whole entire time with every single step was that, you guys, I just felt like an idiot. I was so self-conscious and so acutely, painfully self-aware of how much I was struggling. And we know that it's human nature to worry about what you look like and what other people are thinking, especially when we know we are not at our best. And especially when we're doing something that we've never done before. And especially when inside you feel like you're stumbling and like you're feeling so hardcore. And then in a situation like this, when you are literally actually stumbling over rocks, like for everyone, anyone and everyone around to see. So I was like carrying so much extra physical and mental tension because I hated knowing that I looked weak and I looked inexperienced and I looked like I might fall. And then the times that I actually was like slipping or struggling a little bit. So you guys, this is when it happened, okay? And this is seriously the God's honest truth that this is exactly the moment that I thought of a podcast episode and I thought of all of you guys and I thought of all of my followers and all of my clients and all of my coaching groups. It's when all of this came into my head and it literally was like it smacked me in the face because I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I talk about all the time. I'm like, I talk about this feeling and this experience all the time. But obviously, I just talk about it from the standpoint of getting sober. But I realized in that very moment that I was living and experiencing a truth that I say to people on an almost daily basis. And I laughed out loud because this is what I was like literally saying to myself. It was like, Shannon, nobody is paying attention to you because they are all so concerned about themselves. And they're worried about the same things I'm worried about. They're worried about trying not to slip. They're worried about trying not to fall. They are so preoccupied with their own version of this thing that we're doing here. So in that moment, I knew I was just like, Shannon, stop caring what you think other people are thinking. Stop caring if you're stumbling and feeling like you're going to fall at every second because seriously, no one cares about me as much as I do. Like they are all thinking about themselves. They are all also trying not to fall. They are all caught up in whatever conversation they're having with themselves in their head. They're not paying attention to me. You guys, that is like, it's such a powerful aha moment. And it's such a freeing moment because I remember having that same aha moment in my own quitting drinking journey. And now here I was having it again in a completely different life situation, like 2 years later, but it's the same thing. And like I said, it's the same conversation I try to walk my clients through on an almost daily basis when people are so caught up and concerned with like, oh, but all my what are my friends going to say if I quit drinking? What is my family going to say if I quit drinking? And what if I say I quit drinking, but then I slip up and drink, and then everybody's going to be thinking all of these things about me, or everybody's going to say all of these things about me. And you guys, the truth is 99% of the time, people do not give a shit. They are not paying attention to you because we're all inherently kind of that selfish. We're all focused on ourselves and our own stuff, right? So like we need to just stop caring. We need to stop caring what other people might possibly maybe be thinking about us. And we need to stop caring if we stumble a little bit or if we feel like we're falling and failing. Because like, so what if we do? What if I did slip? What if I did fall? Okay. Well, then get up and keep going, right? Like you'll figure it out. I would have figured it out. I would have just picked myself up and kept going, right? And that's the whole point. So we're on this hike and we're taking these steps, and there were so many times as I'm so worried about slipping or stumbling or falling because I'm worried about other people seeing it, and I'm also worried about how it might impact other people, right? So I'm paying so much attention to my husband and so much attention to my brother-in-law and what they're doing and trying to copy exactly what they're doing and doing it their way, right? So they would take a specific part of the path, or they would take a certain sequence of steps on the trail, and it looked really, really easy for them. So then I follow them and I do this same exact thing, and I just about fall on my ass. And I'm like, what the heck? Like they just did this and didn't miss a beat. It didn't even look hard for them at all. And then I do the same exact thing and literally stumble and slip and have to catch myself so I don't actually fall. And yeah, that's super demoralizing, you guys. But then you know what happens. And just even that tiny, tiny little moment, that tiny little moment of being like, oh my God, but I was trying to do exactly what they said and I did it and it didn't work for me. But you know what that means? Is that I gained a little bit of experience of my own in that moment. So then when we're 30 seconds farther down the path and I see them taking another sequence of steps, and I'm like, oh, but now I'm a little apprehensive because I don't want to just so willingly follow exactly what they say because I did that last time and they did fine, but I slipped. But so it would give me just enough pause to like look around. And I'd look a little bit to the left and I'd look a little bit to the right and be like, oh, you know what? Those few steps there are not as steep as the ones right in front of me that they just took. So I'm going to go this way instead. And I did that because in the previous 30 seconds, when I had stumbled and slipped a little bit, it left me with some wisdom and it left me with some experience. And so I could say, oh, you know what? I think that this little tweak, we're still doing the same big thing, right? We're all still on this big same path, walking up this same big mountain together. But I see that this tiny little deviation to the left might be better for me based on what I've already experienced versus just doing this exactly the same way that they did it. So in that tiny, tiny little short amount of time, in the slipping, in the sliding, in the almost falling, I had gained some experience and some wisdom. Like super small amounts, but it still counts, right? It's still experience, it's still wisdom. And so here's the aha moment that again I had there. And it reminded me so much of my early sobriety journey. And it reminds me so much of the things I see in women every day. But you guys, we can't gain any experience if we don't just keep going. And if we don't just keep trying, because sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's not going to work. But it's for sure not going to work if you don't even start or if you don't even keep going. If you just give up, well, then you 100% know that it's not going to work. So we do keep going and we keep adapting. And we keep trying. And that's what we do in both of these scenarios here, right? I'm talking about the quitting drinking and the getting sober and the staying sober, but I'm also still talking about this hike and how I was figuring out how to keep going. Because I just kept adapting and I kept trying. And yes, still sometimes slipping, but most of the time not. Or at least not as bad as I had been in the beginning. Because now I had all of those little pockets of wisdom and experience, and I became more assured in my footing, in my physical capability. So I could look at what my husband and brother-in-law were doing and use it as a guide and as a framework, but every step I took was actually giving me confidence in what I could do and in how I could do it. So I just kept piecing the hike together like that, one step at a time, and before I knew it, we were at the top. We were at the top, and then it's all amazing, right? It's all so amazing. And I can look down at the trail that we just climbed and I get to be like, holy shit, I really just did that. It was messy. It was super messy. And it did not feel great a lot of the time, but I did it. And it didn't kill me. And now I'm here. And I like have this like sense of accomplishment to prove it. And I have the pictures that I can prove it, right? So that's the thing. Because what do you do when you're at the top? But what everybody does. And you take the pictures and you take the videos and you look cool. And that's what everybody sees. And that's what we show. And that's the finished product. That's the finish line. That's the goal. But what those pictures don't share is the whole story, you guys. This whole raw, unfiltered, messy version that I'm walking you through right now. But that's why I actually wanted to talk about it. And I wanted to remind myself and all of you that are listening that we can get so caught up in the finish line or the goal, and we can gloss over what it takes to get there. But the getting there is the most important part. That's where we learn exactly what we're supposed to learn. That's where we make the biggest gains. So, okay, you might think that then that's where the story ends because we're at the top of the mountain, but it doesn't, because you have to walk back down the mountain. And this is not just a walking down the mountain, because a hike of this nature, and again, like a lot of life, there's always parallels here, right? Yes, there are certain parts that are easier now because we're going downhill and the trail is more familiar. And because of things like gravity, right? Like it's helpful. But also, there is new danger because you're going downhill. And there are hard parts because we're going downhill. And parts of it feel harder because of gravity. So sometimes the stuff that makes it easier also makes it harder. And sometimes the stuff that you think is going to help maybe actually makes it harder. So we're making our way down this mountain. And again, really soon feel myself feeling really shaky and really unsure. And I'm like, come on. Like, I was just so proud of myself because I did it. And I was having that like high of being on the mountaintop. But now we're trying to get back down. And I'm like, oh my God, this is hard. This is harder than I expected it to be. I thought it would be easier going down, but it wasn't. So I'm telling myself again, like, oh man, I'm really proud of myself for doing this, but I don't know if I would do it again. I don't really even want to keep doing it right now. Like, seriously, I said this to my husband. I'm like, if there was a chairlift here, like you see on ski hills, I would hop on it right now and take it to get down. And I would just be done. I'd be like, peace out. I did the climb. I made it to the top, but I do not want to do this going down part because it feels so awkward and it feels so unnatural. And you do keep thinking about the rocky, bumpy, steep trail laid out before you and thinking, holy shit, if I take one wrong step, I am going to be rolling down a jagged, rocky mountainside. Okay. So I have all of that in my head. This like the euphoric high of accomplishing something that I'm really, really proud of, but now also immediately being back in this place of like, oh my God, but now this feels hard again. And this feels, I'm like, it's shaky and I'm unsettled. And then other unexpected things keep popping up because it wouldn't be life if that wasn't the case, right? So an example of this, a quick example of this, you guys, and stick with me because I promise it's relevant. Chafing. Okay, and this is not TMI, I promise, but we're not that far back into this hike down, and I realize that I am like rubbing and chafing to the point of very noticeable discomfort under my arms because I've got a decent amount of extra skin in like my armpit underarm area. If you're new to my journey, if you haven't been following me on Instagram for the last year, I've lost about 35 pounds in the last year. A year ago, I did a really deep dive into healing my body and healing my gut health specifically, and did a lot of work to clear out candida and parasites. And that was hard and that was hell. But the upside of it is it restored health to a level that I haven't had, since I was in my early 30s. And it allowed me to lose nearly 35 pounds in the last year. So combined then, I've lost about 60 pounds since I quit drinking 2.5 years ago. But the thing is, when you lose that much weight, there are places on your body where there's just extra skin. Okay. So kind of my underarms, like armpit, chest area is one of those areas for me where there's just some extra skin. It never even occurred to me that this was going to be an issue. Like it was not on my radar at all. But we're hiking down this hill, and a good part of the downhill hike is there's actually like rails because it's so steep. You can't just walk down it or you will tumble and fall down all of these jagged rocks. So you're like, it's like you're climbing, but in reverse, right? And in fact, some parts are like that. Like it was easier to turn around backwards and like lower yourself down. So it was a lot of upper arm work that I wasn't expecting. And my arms were chafing. So now I've got like all of the thoughts in my head that have still been there the whole time, right? Of like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but I did it. This is so cool. But God, this downhill part is harder than I expected. So now I feel like so unshaky and unsteady again, dealing with stuff like there was a guy behind us who did actually slip and fall. So then you're worried about him, but then you also become acutely aware of like, oh, there's people behind me. And what if somebody slips and falls and then they slide into me? Or then what if I slip and fall and slide into somebody else? So it can snowball quickly into all of just these thoughts and this awareness of how so many people are doing this thing all together at the same time. And then you throw in something like underarm chafing that was not at all on my bingo card for that day. But the point is, I had no choice but to just adapt and deal with it and figure it out. Because what was I going to do? There's absolutely nothing I can do. I have to continue this hike down the mountain. And I have to use my arms because it's an integral part of how you do it without falling and dying. But that then right there, you guys, was the whole point. Like, when you have to figure something out, you will figure it out. Everything is figure outable. There is always a solution. There is always a way to keep going, especially when you like have no other choice. I had no choice but to keep figuring this out. So I did. With every step, I just kept, tweaking, changing, adapting, and just kept moving because what was I going to do? Sit my ass down and just like live on the side of this mountain? No, I had to keep going. So as we kept doing that and finally get closer to the bottom, then again, you guys, those really good feelings start to kick in, right? I'm very quickly back to like feeling like a badass, and I feel strong and I feel capable and I'm proud of myself. And I feel that way you feel when you do something that's really, really effing hard, but you just prove to yourself that you can do it. And that's a feeling that you can't get any other way than just doing the thing that feels so impossible and just continuing to figure it out one thing at a time as you go. So to wrap this all up, you guys, what this hike reminded me of and what is so key to quitting drinking and getting sober and staying sober is to just not look too far ahead because it all looks really, really fucking big and really scary. And you don't know how you're always going to do it. It's so tempting to just keep looking at the whole big picture and thinking, there is no way I can do this. There's no way I can figure this out. There's no way I'm capable of quitting drinking and recreating or refiguring out my whole entire life without alcohol. And so then you just don't even try. But you guys, what if instead you just look at like, what is just the next step? What is just the next little section that you can commit to? Like, what is the next indicated right thing to do? Just this next step. And even if sometimes there's some slip ups and there's some falls along the way, you're still trying. You're still taking a chance. You're still gaining experience for the next step after that. You just keep taking steps and you keep trusting that whatever comes up and whatever happens, you'll figure it out. And the more you do, the more you'll feel capable and the more you'll trust yourself and the more you'll know that you can figure things out. Because when we keep just taking the next best indicated step, it either works and was the right move, or it didn't work. And it wasn't the smartest or the best step, but now you know better. Now you know for next time. This is the only way that we build a confidence. This is the only way we build experience. The only way that we see how strong we are and how capable we are. The only way that we can find what works for us is to just keep taking steps. This hike reminded me, you guys, of something that I say like so often to my followers and to my clients, but I needed to be reminded of it. And so I'm guessing that some of you guys do too, okay? You guys, we are so much stronger than we think we are. And we are so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. The things that we want, things like confidence and ease, and the mastery or a certain skill, we can only get these by doing the things that build those characteristics. If I want to be a better hiker, then I need to hike more. I need to get stronger. If you want to feel more at peace and more confident without alcohol, then you need to try to live life without alcohol. It's the only way. You can't just think about it. You can't try once and say, oh shit, that was hard or that didn't work, so I'm done. We keep doing it. We keep trying. Every little step gives us some wisdom and gives us some experience. And we keep figuring it out. And then before you know it, we've done it. We've done the thing that at one time seemed impossible. Like, no way in hell can I do that. And then before you know it, not only have you done it, but like you're living it. And it's your new reality. You are capable and you can figure it out. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for hanging with me for this chat. I would love to hear how this landed for you. If it resonated at all, hop over to Instagram and send me a DM. I always love hearing from you guys, and I'll talk to you next time. That's it for today's episode. If this conversation resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if you're loving the show, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a quick review. It helps others find this message and start their own journey to freedom. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep believing in what's possible, and remember, you are so much stronger than you think.